Today we're going to review the Positive for Restaurant Equipment version 6. This is the latest version of version 6 with a version 8 to come out in the next couple of months. In version 6, we've taken requests from our customers, submitted them to the Positive programmers, and they have been creating enhancements as the needs arise based on our customer's request. So we're going to start out with the most important feature in the system, which is importing auto quote projects and saving a tremendous amount of time not having to hand type these projects in. So let's start out with our ability to import a project from auto quotes. We're going to hit the AQ import button. And this is the project that we had that I had created in AutoQuotes as a JSON file. I'm going to import that. It's going to verify that I have these vendors in Positive. And if I don't, the import program will create my vendors' addresses and all the information for me. So I just hit continue. Next is a list of all the items in that project, and if any of them are not in Positive, by hitting the verify all, it will create the items in Positive for me. We don't have to have them in ahead of time. I'm also going to change my customer to the New Vision Seafood and continue. There is no limit on the size of the project. I've had some as large as 3,000 items for a fast food counters in a stadium. And I was told it would take 3 days to hand type all the information into the customer's computer. And with this, it did it in 25 minutes. So I have completed. And now I am going to go into my Manage Pending. Again, you can use the upper menu if you wish, but I use my buttons. And these are user-definable buttons. And then I say I want to look at my quotes. And here's my quotes. Now, at this point, I can set the status knowing that on this quote, the customer is going to want it shipped with our truck. So I select our truck so everybody down the line in our company know that we're shipping this out on our trucks. So now I've got that quote, and I'm going to, if I wish, I can edit that quote and make any changes, and any changes I make has multiple revisions. So when I click this little guy up at the top here, this will show me every time I've modified this quote or modified my sales order, allowing me to go back to that prior revision number and reload it by restoring it. So if everything is good on this, I'm going to say save. What date am I going to ship? On the 23rd. Do you want to save my changes? Yes, I do. So now I can go and say I want to convert this quote to an actual sales order. So convert. I don't need to check the little box here. I'm highlighted. And I can convert this to a sales order. And here's my sales order, and I hit save. This is the customer's purchase order number. And if he tells me he wants a different date, fine. If not, I just put it on the 24th again. Apply a payment, no. And we'll say we can just print the order only. we can see show costs, and these are the items, and this is our unit cost, our sell price. Some of our customers have asked us to put a profit margin in, but it's kind of tight with all the pictures and everything on here, but it's something that can be done on a line item. And okay. So no longer is it a quote, now it's under our sales orders. And this tells me that none of these items that I have here are back ordered. Under the purchasing tab, we have no POs for these yet. Now, we could just sell from our existing inventory, or we can go ahead and say we want to sell everything by ordering it on a PO. So I'm going to say create purchase order, all products, and I'm going to tag all. Now, I can drop ship these items. I could put some of these items on hold to be created a PO at a later date for this sales order, but I'm going to just say tag all and convert it to purchase orders. So here are all my items, and again, you can sort them by vendor if you want, any way you want to do it. And I have to say tag all, put little red check marks. That means I'm going to be creating a PO for every one of these red check line items. So I say create purchase order. And these are the 3 vendors' POs that I've created. And I'm going to close this. So now I'm going to go ahead to my purchasing, and I'm going to go to create POs. Here are the 3 POs I just got done creating from my sales order. They're linked to that sales order. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to place these orders and process them. I can print one out, or I can email it directly to the vendor, my choice. Okay, all my POs have been sent to my vendor. Now product is starting to come in. If I change my filter and say I want to see everything, here's a list of all my items. I also have the ability, when I'm looking for purchase orders, to set a flag to say, only show me my orders. I don't want to see everybody in the company's orders. All I want to do is see my orders. And it will then filter, only your orders will show up on the screen. So we've got this here, and I'm going to start receiving these. So click receive. And the vendor's packing slip or invoice number, either one. Over here, it's telling me that my vendor rules have been met for free shipping or any other specific rule that I've created in my system. So it's green. It'll be red if you didn't have enough for free shipping. So here's my first thing. I'm going to say post it. I have to say receive all. So I'm receiving all. If I didn't receive something, I could say quantity ordered 1, received 0, and it'll leave that PO open. This is all going to post to my inventory. And it's asking for some serial numbers, because these items I've set for serial tracking. And I have to make sure it goes to this field. Okay, so these 3 items on that PO have been received to my warehouse. And with Location Manager, I can go to any of these different locations of how many I want to have in each of these things. I may have one to the showroom and the other ones to the warehouse, or whatever method I want to use. I'll go ahead and receive the rest of these. Again, these are serial numbers. Oh, I've already had that serial number. And I want to make sure I put it in this box here. Okay, so I'm receiving all these items in. And it's fulfilled these back order. Okay, everything has been received on that PO. It's all in inventory. It's ready to sell. I later get my actual invoice in from my vendors, and I do that in the accounting in AP processing. And here are the 3 invoices for the inventory I just received. I have the ability to edit any of these by clicking the edit button, selecting let's say the first item, and then say I want to edit that. I can change the cost for this item only that is on that PO. All the other items of the same SKU that have different costs in inventory are not affected. It only affects this item on this purchase order with the new cost. I can also change my packing slip number that I put in to an actual invoice number. So I'm going to say save, and the rest of them are here. I am now going to take these unposted invoices. They're not in payables yet. They're unposted, but they are in my inventory. So when I post them, I am going to be debiting purchases clearing, which was where the credit went when I received the inventory in, and it's going to debit purchases clearing to zero that account out and credit accounts payable. So we're going to say tag all, and we're going to say post approved. So those now are sitting all in my posted group. If I decide I want to pay them, all I do is say I want to process paid. So I'm going to say pay all, and that'll pick up the last 3 that I received, and process paid. And these are all the invoices that are going to get paid. Now I have multiple types of remit tenders. I can have tenders such as ACH, checking, credit cards, finance companies, whatever method I wish to use. And I can also select multiple checking accounts to pay this batch from. Right here it's going to say if I want to send these things to the remittance advice to the printer. I won't bother with that. And we'll close. This has a zero balance, so no check was paid for that. So now in my checkbook, I have some invoices here that don't have a check number. Admicraft, Tamco, and True. So my last one is 5134. If I go to print checks and say 5135, and one part checks. Now this is going to try to print on my laser here, so I'll just say preview and see if it'll still let me. Okay, you'll see now it has the check numbers. And I'm going to close that. So that takes care of ordering with a PO from a sales order and processing it all the way through the accounting system. So let's go back now to our orders. And we have this sales order. We're now going to convert that to an actual invoice. And here's all the items. We can add additional items if we wish on this invoice. That's not a problem. We can also go to purchase history and see all the items this customer purchased from us in the past. I keep laying my hand on my space bar and it brings up that other window. So here are all the items. If I wanted to select this other item here, this will show how many times for this customer I've sold this item. So if I select this and say select and use this serial number, I've now successfully added that to the invoice. I don't have to go back to the sales order or anything. I can add it right on the fly to that invoice. If everything is good, I click tender, and it did find something that needed a serial number. This was probably from an earlier. There are some back orders for some items I didn't get, but I'll say go ahead and fill the back orders. I can sell things I don't have. My purchase order will offset the negative. And I have some more serial numbers. And it comes to how is the customer going to pay it? Well, we're going to adjust the credit. Right now it's $57,000. So this was at $50,000. I'll allow this charge without having to change the credit limit. And now I'll put store account. And okay. Now it wants a signature. If the person is here, I can take a signature on my Topaz signature card. And accept it. No packing slip. I'll preview the invoice. So here's my invoice with all the items on it. I have multiple invoices set up so you can see this. We can even do a receipt printer. And it's too wide for the receipt printer. Okay, so I have completed that. It's sitting in my invoice history. If I close this and I go to my transactions and invoice history, I can see the one we just did for New Vision. And here's all the items that were on that. 57,000. I can go ahead and say show costs. This will show my costs and my profit on every item. So that's how we ran through that transactions from start to finish. And the only other things to discuss are our inventory manager. And as you can see, we have multiple warehouses for these items. We have the full spec from auto quotes and all the extended information. We have the pictures. We have them in subcategories. So if we're looking for items in subcategories and we go to our inventory, by selecting, and you can do this at the sales screen too, selecting the binoculars, we can pick a auto quote category, either an auto quote vendor, or we can pick a auto quote item, like a back bar cabinet. If I click that and select OK, I'm only going to see my back bar cabinet. So we are filtering as a subcategory on the auto quotes categories, but we're using the auto quotes model numbers and auto quotes descriptions and full specifications, and the second group is additional specifications. Now let's go up to the top here. If I click this to the top, so it's probably easier to close this and open it again. If I look at this item here and I select documents, if I want to see, like for example, a true video to show on my customer screen or just on my screen, by clicking view, I'll see the with sound so sounds up. I got to pause in here. So anyhow, you get to see the video. And then you can see cut sheets, anything that you wish to add to the documents, instruction manuals, and any of these can be printed if you do your instruction manual. Instead of looking for pieces of paper in your office, you can open this up and then just print it to for the customer. And that way he can have it without having to look around for an instruction manual. Okay, also under Stock Manager, you're seeing how many we have and what the serial numbers are for each group that came in. Stats will tell us how many inventory items we have and how many are currently inactive. We have the ability with min-maxes to set what we call our seasonal min-maxes of what we want during this group. So when we reorder with our order management system, it knows how many we expect to have as min-maxes. Break apart will allow us to take cases of products like dishes and break a case apart that has 3 boxes. So we can then put order by the case, sell by the box, or take a box and break that further down into the individual plates that are going to be a higher cost to the customer because we're breaking apart an item for them. So that's how our inventory is. Our vendors, our customers are basically the same concept. If you're looking for true, you can have their email address, their website, any other details, their terms. If they belong to a buyer group, you can have the system cut the check to the buyer group, but it'll show as paid in the vendor file and in accounts payable, even though it's not payable to True. And you can see items they have on purchase orders, what POs are out there, and the AP payments that we've made, and what checking account they came out of. You said documents could be stored here if there were any specific documents. Many times people, when they do their accounts payable, they will scan in for that invoice a copy of that payable and attach it as a document to that invoice. So if someone wants to see why did we get a charge for True for $18,000, instead of going to the file cabinet, they can just click the document and see a picture of that invoice. And that's available to anyone who has the security to do that. When items come in on a purchase order, it automatically generates labels. So you can see each PO that comes in gets its own list of labels to print. So you can select these and then they will print. Like if I selected all these and say tag all, and then say print labels, I can click preview labels first. And I can have these go across, 3 across, 2 across, 1 across, whatever layout I want. So you can make all your own barcode tabs, or it'll read the manufacturer's UPC code. You scan that box and it'll automatically change it over to the model number that you're using. Okay. Now, when you have sales at the counter, if a customer comes in and wishes to buy something, you can say the Cabin Club, let's say, for example. And this is the ship tos. So if they come in, you can use your barcode scanner to either scan the UPC code or this one. So whatever you want to scan, that'll scan for you. And it saves having to do lookups. And we can hit tender. Or if we wish, by going down with the down arrow and hitting the enter key, we can search for things within a category. If you drill down here, and you could look at all the different categories you set up. Like if I'm looking for cooking equipment, it'll bring up my cooking equipment. I also have templates where if you do a recondition of an item that you purchased from your customer, you can put in your labor and additional work, bringing it up to a sellable item, and then that could be a used item that could have a bigger profit margin. So there's a lot of things you could do. This is the most handy, is finding out what they purchased in the past. So if you select that, it brings it into. This is good when you have patterns on flatware and you want to duplicate the patterns that they bought in the past. And since we import all your invoice history, we know what they purchased in the past. So if everything's good here, we just hit tender. If the customer's got a credit, we can apply money from the credit against this invoice. And this can be a charge card, whatever method you want to affect, finance company, store accounts, PayPal. If you do a check, it doesn't really care about the credit limit because they're paying cash or credit card or a check. And the invoice again can be any way you want it. We make up all the forms to fit the way you want them to fit. We can reprint, we can email that invoice directly to the customer. Your choice. Click OK. So those are the highlights of the system. We've got so many reports that are industry specific, over 200, that gives us all the kinds of information, items that we have low, high profit sales, low profit items in your inventory that haven't been sold yet. As I say, hundreds of reports. They all come at no charge to the customer because somebody else has already paid for them. And everything from inventory valuation. It runs very fast. If I run an inventory valuation, you saw I had 14,000 items. If I click preview, and then this is where it groups it by the categories, kitchen equipment, and this is what I have in stock. So items that were processed and leased to customers that are still our property, but we're getting monthly billing, which we can hit their credit card automatically every month for their lease. What we have in the showroom, what's in the warehouse. So a lot of great reports, always interested in hearing from the customers with new report requests because it makes the system even more expansive and solves people's problems. That in a nutshell. And at the end of the day, we balance our register. We've got 5 transactions. We have a coin counter if we want to use it. Here we have 1406 and cash came in. And we had 7,000 in checks. Anything in receivables is not considered tender. That's 7, 8, 53, 97. Now, if something doesn't balance, it will go to the overage account, but you have to have a supervisor approve the shortage. So we're going to post, and we're going to leave anything in the drawer for the next day in that register. And this kind of gives you a recap of what invoices and how they were paid for. And it's been posted. So that information gets sent over to my accounting system under my print or post transaction. Here are all the transactions, debits equal credits, as you can see. And these are the actual like invoices. You can see how it's crediting each item. This is a very, very detailed general ledger. So we know how much credited, removed from inventory, our sales, and once again, debits and credits equal. We also have under our manual entry, if I wanted to make one, I have a standard journal entry that I can make. I can do a reversing entry if you want to do month-end depreciation and then have it reverse the following month, or at year-end. And we have reoccurring. And that's it in a recap.